When you hear the two words summer reading, it might make you break out into hives and go into super flashback trauma mode. I know that summer reading has gotten out of control in terms of what we value and who's in charge and who's doing it, who's it for. There are a lot of questions about whether or not it's actually effective or even worth trying to rescue. I do believe that there is a way to rescue summer reading, and not just because we should. I know that with the summer slide and all of the work that we do to grow our students throughout the school year, the heartbreak that comes with knowing how much is lost, especially from our low economic students. We had got to come up with some creative solutions to make summer reading happen again, but happen in a way that is truly positive, authentic, fun, and engaging. I've got a webinar for you that I'd love to share. I also dropped 2 episodes about summer reading that you can listen to on the podcast. Head to bravenewteaching.com/summer reading to get all your freebie goodies, watch the webinar, and give summer reading another shot. This is one that you're going to want to watch with your teacher bestie or maybe even your team. If you're ready to take the next step, give me a call, give me a jingle. Let's plan it together, or just send me a message on Instagram. Head to bravenewteaching.com/summer reading to get that kickstart you need to make summer reading fun and awesome. One more time.
Well, hello and welcome back to Brave New Teaching, and welcome to our third installment in our collection looking at the hero's journey. Hello, Amanda.
Oh, hey, Marie. How's it going, babe?
Oh, it's going. It's going. And I am excited to talk about the Odyssey today. Are you?
Yeah, like shortest intro ever. If you don't know what's going on, go to the show notes, but you need to back up because you in the middle of something.
Yeah. You're going to want to listen to the first episode. What number is that again? Because you know, and I don't remember. 256 is the intro, the first installment in this collection of 4. We are right now in number 3, like I said before, of looking at the hero's journey as a template and a way to format. What am I trying to say? What's the word I'm looking for?
Design?
Sure. No, but that's okay. I'll get there. Framework. It's a framework for designing a unit, looking at decentering text and finding ways that different ideas and frameworks can be vehicles through exploring questions.
This is it.
Give that first one a listen. Last week, we had an episode looking at a unit specifically like with 7th grade-ish in mind, middle grades in mind, with The Hobbit. Today, we are jumping ahead a couple of years to look at a 9th grade, typically 9th grade text, The Odyssey, with a more complex essential question and some different texts to pair with. Yes, so we're going to run through the skeleton of what that unit would look like. We'll both talk a little bit about what our units have looked like and what they should have and could have looked like. So, you ready?
I'm pumped. I can't wait.
If you don't already have our little freebie evidence tracker for this series, head to the show notes, go to bravenewteaching.com/hero and get the evidence tracker. That is the 3 parts of the hero's journey in different sheets so kids can really track their progress and have evidence of their learning along the way. Now, with no further ado, cue the music.
You're listening to Brave New Teaching, and we are so much more than a podcast.
We give teachers the inspiration, support, and tools to challenge the status quo.
I'm Amanda, and I'm a former English teacher from Illinois.
And I'm Marie, and I'm a high school teacher from Southern California.
Join us after the show and happy hour to extend your VNT experience with instant access to our resources, workshops, and courses.
Visit shop.bravenewteaching.com/happy hour to join us today. We're so glad you're here. Enjoy the show. All right. I feel like I have taught the Odyssey. I feel like I've taught it 25 times. I honestly think I've taught it twice, maybe 3 times.
That's saying something.
Isn't it though? I know. How about you?
At least, yeah, I'd say probably 3 or 4. Because I definitely taught it during student teaching. And I think we talked about it in 256, our intro, that I probably did 4 weeks of gods and goddesses before I was like, oh God, now I've got to teach the Odyssey. And what was I like? My proportions were all wrong. Like they were so wrong the first time. And then they smoothed out year after year, but it took a while to get there and it shouldn't have.
Oh, I remember spending at least 2 weeks on exactly that. On like basically, I was teaching ninth grade English and we were doing sixth and seventh grade. My son is in sixth grade now and he's starting to learn about Greek mythology. So I was doing like sixth grade history.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was kids were engaged, but we were not doing anything that was helpful for what we needed to do in an English class for high school.
It was
We
that thing
were
that we talk
doing
it was what we talk about in curriculum rehab. Like it was missing the cohesion, right? It was missing
Yes.
that, like, where is this going?
We were doing, because this is like, we're talking 2007, 2008. So I had giant pieces of butcher paper, like going like ceiling to floor lengthwise. And we were creating like Facebook pages with like a feed. So it looked like the full scroll for different gods and goddesses. And now it's like, okay, actually, I can see where that's super engaging. But like I dropped the ball at making it analytical because we just did that. And then we read the Odyssey.
Sure.
Instead of, it would have made so much sense to make it like an individual character's version or like perspective on tracking plot, like Dodoy. But no, we just looked at gods and goddesses and mythology, and then we stopped, and then we read the Odyssey. And I was like, why isn't this more fruitful?
So here it is, right? This is our real talk. Like this is what Marie and I are here for and why we started this podcast, because no one's talking about the other way to do things. So,
Right.
So last episode we talked about the hero's journey and this chart and this evidence tracker. Great. Now, when you get to ninth grade and you're looking at the hero's journey and a chart or a tracker, there are wrong ways to use it.
There are ways that we call wrong that are just not going to get you any good productive results. They'll get you results, but then you'll go, but what did anybody learn other than how to just copy down what I told them to copy down?
Thank you for clarifying what I did not mean to come across as you're doing it all wrong. Mostly, right? The wrong is you have a dream, but then the tool you used took you in the wrong direction.
Well, and you're like us and you're like, squirrel, shiny object. And then you're like, oh, also let's talk about Circe because this is a very exciting and you're like, great, but it never came back. Like the boomerang has to come back.
And so that's the thing. It's like when we give you this tool, let's talk about how the hero's journey tool evolves from 7th grade to 9th grade. Because for me, I think the trap is thinking that this is a plot tracker, and it's not, right? Like even when we talked last episode, it was a evolution of Bilbo Baggins, right? We were looking at the characterization really. I think when I look at this journey tracker with the Odyssey, I do want plot events on there, but it's under the umbrella of our essential question.
Yes.
Right? We're going to use it in order to help us answer this question with more complexity. So
if you missed our conversation about The Hobbit, honestly, pause us here, go back and listen to it, and then come right back. Looking at The Hobbit, we looked at Our Heroes Born or Made. Looking at the Odyssey, we are looking at a little bit more of a time and place of where our kids are. We're looking at a little bit more nuanced of a question. And the question is, do you have to leave home to discover who you are? And that begets so many more questions and so many more points of conversation along Odysseus's journey. And that's the point. That's why the evidence tracker is broken up into the 3 acts. Could it all be on one place? Yes, absolutely. But we want time and space to breathe, to look at each leg of this journey as its own smaller arc and looking at the question, do you have to leave home to discover who you are?
Well, and I think what's really cool about this, again, when we're talking about this vertical articulation, I love vertical articulation. Used to be this like really gross buzzword that gave me hives. And like now I do it for a living. Like I left the classroom to go help schools do this. And it just cracks me up because I still haven't found a way to make it sexy. But like this is like, I'm like jumping out of my skin right now because what we now have the opportunity to do is actually ask kids, if you don't leave home, can you still be a hero?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
can you rise to your whole potential? Yeah.
Right? Well, the hero's journey assumes, right, that you must leave in order to be transformed into this hero. That the journey itself is what creates a hero. That's what an archetypical, right, Joseph Campbell, our hero's journey does. And now we're able to do like, this is like baby lit crit. We don't need to call it lit crit with freshmen. We don't need to do that. But we're really going to be able to pull back, right? Like, so when we said like, don't use this to track the plot, we're going to use this to ask some really juicy questions about this hero's journey thing. Like, is this really a thing? Or is this just a way that authors start their stories and then they do what they want? And who breaks the cycle? And what happens when you break the cycle and do something different? And I love that. Like, I don't think seventh grade's quite ready for that,
No.
but you absolutely freaking are. And the fact that you're doing it with freshmen, the reason Marie and I put it here is because very likely there are other coming of age types of stories this year that will aid this conversation, or this conversation will come before you see those other stories, making that year so rich.
Well, there's a reason that whether you're teaching it or not, that traditionally To Kill a Mockingbird has been in the ninth grade. Like it's because it's coming of age, it's, loss of innocence, it's all of these things. And so like, I always ask the question, like, what is home?
Yeah.
Is it a physical journey? Is it a metaphysical? Like, what is this journey?
Yeah.
And that will then come back next week also, because we will continue this conversation with more complexity in our last installment in this collection, in this series. But okay, so we've talked about our essential question. Do you have to leave home to discover who you are? Now let's look at the flip side of that coin, which is our summative for this unit that we're talking through. And last week, we were looking at character development and analysis and some sort of a project or paper or something there. This is a little bit more inward and reflective, looking at a reflective presentation of a journey of sorts that the individual kid has been on. So for some kids, this reflective, and whether it's a presentation up in front of people or some sort of a creative project, I don't know. I think that in the year 2010, it would have been everybody stand up and give a presentation and give a talk. In the year 2025, 2026, I think that it's a different format and there's more flexibility of choice, because we're just going to, ebb and flow and grow with our kids.
Yeah, it's a video, it's a collage with a voiceover, it's a series of podcast episodes. I mean, the production of this product can be a lot of things, but I think it's part one, like your journey, right? Apply hero's journey-esque, right, to yourself. What was that for you? But then part two is answering that essential question. Did it require you to leave home?
Yeah.
To go through this, right? Like to change and to grow, like did it require like stepping and also defining home?
And what is home? Yeah. And that journey can be things that are like coming into high school, right? Which is a much different experience than middle or junior high, and especially elementary. And that's why it's at ninth grade. But then it also, the journey can be something really big and deep, or it can also be, this is when I learned how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
This is when I don't know.
Those transformative
yes.
coming of age moments that
yes.
are likely on the tip of your tongue from other things that you're doing during the year.
Absolutely. So that's the beginning and the end. And now let's talk a little bit about what we would pair along with like some supplements that we would use along with the Odyssey, which is pretty dense. I don't normally teach all of the books of the Odyssey. I don't know about you. And how we would then use this tracker to like marry the different texts. I really like watching journeys along with something that I'm reading. So like we could watch The Hobbit, which I feel like is a nice little callback to the 7th grade unit that we talked about. But then you also really liked the movie Mufasa.
I don't know if I really liked the movie, but I really.
No, I meant like with this. Sorry. I left a weird pause in my sentence.
You didn't, but I guess I'm undecided if I liked Mufasa or not. I'm still like a little weirded out by the lions and the CGI and everything. But I was first when I sat down to watch it, I was like, who asked for this story? I don't remember anyone calling Disney and saying, but what about Mufasa's backstory? Like, I don't think anyone did that. But I watched it, and it is, from a hero's journey standpoint, fascinating to look at Mufasa's kind of full circle moment. There's a lot of circle of life, full circle moments. It's also a villain origin story. So you get both Mufasa and Scar. And there are so many like Shakespearean moments of like, this is a teachable, super clear, pinpoint this on the journey moment that I think would be great to do some like side by side close readings, even like side by side diagramming of like exactly what this moment in the journey looks like. It's absolutely like Mufasa. Sorry, I'm going to spoil this for you, but at the very beginning of the story, he's separated from his family. So the journey begins when he's a little baby lion. And so that, right, like again, like being at what age you're forced into the journey, does that make a difference? Like, it's just really going to set you up for some good questions. It's accessible, and kids love a good Disney movie. I mean, we recommended Moana last time, and not because we are getting a kickback from Disney. It's just kids typically are all in.
Well, and they also are nice for a class period or two. Like, it's a nice 90-minute, maybe 2-hour.
Yeah, Mufasa's a little long, but yeah. But
really?
still.
Okay. I haven't watched it. Obviously, I haven't watched it yet.
It's more than 90 minutes, but it's not like.
Yeah. But I honestly, like any of these, Raya, is it Raya and the Last Dragon? Is that the title? Is a great one also for tracking these sorts of like heroic changes, because this is something that like the character is thrust into, always born to do a certain heroic act, but then like thrust into saving the world, basically. And then we had, for this one, we've got some different nonfiction, like ideas for nonfiction. And that was looking at articles talking about gap years and what kids do after high school. Because yes, we're looking at this with kiddos who are 9th grade, they're just entering high school. But since they were little, they're getting hammered with what their life is going to be like after 12th grade. So let's take a little look at some different possibilities and what that looks like. So if high school is home, if, grade school is home, quote unquote, then what does it look like after? Is there college? Is there community college? Is there gap year? Is there going straight into a trade? Is there, yes. So those sorts of like looking at statistics and looking at maybe different numbers over the years of just trends of what people have done could be something to pair into this conversation.
And yes, just like we said last week, your kids can read this at home. You decide how much, you decide how you want to help them do it. Like Marie said, Odyssey is dense. And again, we still believe in kids reading whole texts. Now, whole ancient epics, I think, will be a slight exception to that rule. I don't know that they need, I feel like the Odyssey is more acceptably acceptable than other novels that we teach.
Say that 10 times fast.
And so, but I think that really depends on your planning, and it really depends on the supplementals that you're choosing. So are you going to be treating this more as a paired unit, or are you going to be treating this more as a whole class text with Odyssey front row center all the time, constantly? So plan accordingly, but your kids can do so much with it at home.
Absolutely. And there's always fun things that you can watch and pair and keep it spicy as you're going through, doing read alouds, doing audiobooks, all of the fun things. All right, friends, listen.
Good luck.
Good luck. Come back to us next week because we're going to talk through an 11th grade evolution of these thoughts in this type of a unit and building with that vertical articulation up to the upper high school grades. And I'm excited because any of you that have been following me online know that I've been doing a fantasy unit, and this is the unit. So happy hour members, you're going to be real excited because the whole unit's coming to you. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Friends, we have so many things linked in the show notes, so make sure that you check that out. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a wonderful week at school. And guess what we will do? We will see you next time.
Bye. Thanks again for listening to Brave New Teaching.
We'd love to keep the conversation going over on Instagram.
And while you're there, check out the links in our bio for the most up-to-date events going on in Happy Hour and the Brave New Teaching community.
Thanks for being here and have a great